Hello FlossTube, my name is Leann and I am leann.stitches here on YouTube and on Instagram. You can also find me on Instagram and on Facebook as Forbidden Fiber Co. Today is Sunday, July 27th, 2025, and this is my 48th FlossTube. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel, as YouTubers tend to say. I have some cross stitch, a lot of cross stitch talk, more Christmas in July. I do not have any knitting talk today, and I mean, I guess I have like 5 seconds of knitting talk, and I'll talk about that later. And then I have some book talk and some shop updates, and that's about it. It should be a pretty quick video today because I'm still stitching away on Christmas in July. And actually I don't have as much I don't have as much progress as I normally would because my husband and I ended up taking a very last minute trip to LA to attend the Fantastic Four premiere. So that was a lot of fun, but we were gone for 5 days and I only brought one project with me, and I really only stitched on it for about maybe 30 minutes on the plane. So I do have some good progress, but not as much as I would normally have. So let's just get right into the stitching and let me show you what I've been up to. The first project I have to show you, as always, is Marvel Heroes. It was charted by a popular cross stitch and I bought it on Etsy, but it's no longer available. They are no longer on Etsy. I think it's charted by other people, so you just have to type it in and see what you can find. This is my focus piece for the year. I stitch 50 stitches on it every day-ish. I'm a little behind now because of our trip, so I'm trying to catch up so I can still end the month of July with 1,500 stitches. I'm getting there, but I'll probably, it'll probably take me into August to officially catch up. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and show you where I'm at. And I have been working in this section. I know that since I've been back, I've really been working in this section. I finished out She-Hulk's face, and I did a bunch of her hair and the upper section of her arm, and then I was finishing up Wolverine last night. I'm almost there. I think there's a couple more stitches up in here, and I am stitching this in a 10 by 10 block, top to bottom, left to right, choosing whatever symbol is next, and then I stitch 2 rows at a time. So a 10 by 20 block, I guess, is more accurate. It is a combination of Stitchin' Mommy's typewriter method, and then I've been following Max Color Stitcher. She's the one who introduced the idea of doing 2 rows at a time to show more progress, because as you can see, I stitch pretty far down into the next row to finish out my thread, and I just wasn't seeing as much progress as I would have liked. I'm unsure. I like that I can see the progress better when I do 2 rows instead of just 1, but it takes a whole lot longer to get across. Like, this is the middle of the piece, pretty much right down this line on Wolverine. And I feel like I've been stitching these 2 rows forever, and I'm just now making it onto the other side. And so I'm kind of torn on whether I like getting through the rows faster or I like seeing more progress. Tell me what you think. So there's that. Oh, and I got, over the last 2 weeks, I got 574 stitches, and I am now at 73,296 stitches out of 105,200, and I'm at 69.67%. I'm almost at 70%. I should be there either today or tomorrow. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm doing Christmas in July stitching, so I have taken out all of my Christmas projects and put them in this beautiful bag from Granite Stitchery. And I have 5 projects on a wheel, and I spin the wheel every day, and I work for 30 minutes or 100 stitches ish, because I kind of bent that rule this week, because I'll show you why in a minute. But so that is the second part of my stitching for the night. The first project I have to show you, these are in no particular order, that's just how they're coming out of the bag. So the first project I have to show you is Kringles by Little House Needleworks. I started this a couple of years ago with Sarah from Memphis, Sarah E, and it's been sitting for quite a while, and I decided that I wanted to make some progress in it this year. So there's that, and here's where I'm at. I've been working in this second little storefront, and I did the wagon and I haven't finished the candy cane. I've only done the red on the candy cane. But I worked on this twice. I covered up my paper. Twice? No, I only worked on it once for 30 minutes. And given that I did the wagon and the little doggy, I'm gonna guess that I probably worked on it a little more than 30 minutes that one day, but that's what I wrote down. I'm stitching this 2/2 on a 36 count Granite by Forbidden Fiber Co. And I'm using a mix of the called for DMC, and then instead of using the classic Colorworks flosses, I converted it to Forbidden Fiber Co. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. So yeah, this is a very addictive stitch, and I want to keep stitching on it so badly, but I have to give it up to make progress on my main piece for the night. The next piece I have to show you is 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I do not remember the artist because I never do. I'll put it up there on the screen. It's charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, and I'll put a picture up there of what it's going to look like. And here is where I'm at. I stitched on this one time. I did 142 stitches, and I've stitched a total of 1,477 stitches out of about 389,000. I didn't write it down, so I tried to calculate it based on the fact that I am 0.38% done. And I am doing another modified typewriter method where I'm using the 10 by 10 square top to bottom, left to right to choose my symbol, but then I am color completing by page. So this time I've been choosing symbols in there, and it's lots of red, so I've just been taking the red all over the page. And I actually drew this or spun this to stitch on it tonight, and I'm kind of toying with the idea of, before I decided to color complete by page, I was working on this black, and I stopped about, I stopped there, and I'm thinking of taking it all the way down the page. There's a lot of black on this page, and I think it would be a nice little framework for the rest of my stitching on this page. So that's what I'm considering doing tonight. I'm not really sure if I will though. The next piece I have to show you is Deck the Halls by Crow's Feet Stitching. And I bought this pattern off of Etsy, and I started it a couple of years ago with a group on Instagram, and I couldn't even tell you who's in that group anymore. It's been a while. But this is one of my pieces that I really want to finish this year. So depending on how much I have left after this Christmas and July period, I'm going to try to figure out a method to finish it in December when I do more Christmas stitching. So here's where I'm at, and I stitched on this twice for a little over an hour, and I'm just continuing this border across the top. And I have to say I'm getting really tired of stitching these leaves. I still have to go back and fill in all these white spaces with a lighter green, and then I have to carry it all the way out. So the next time this gets spun, I'll probably just keep on stitching those leaves, but there's also a wreath right here that I'm really considering taking a break and stitching. But I can't decide if I should just kind of, what do they call it, eat my vegetables and stitch the rest of the leaves across the top, or if I should do something fun. I don't really know at this point. I just really want it finished. I'm stitching this 1/2 on a 36 count Winter Sparrow by Forbidden Fiber Co. And I converted all of the flosses into Forbidden Fiber colors. The next piece I have to show you is Frosty by Mill Hill Buttons and Beads. And I picked up this kit at Stitchers Memphis, which is my local needlework shop owned by Sarah. And I'm stitching this as a gift for my mother-in-law for Christmas. And this is the project I took with me to California. So it got a 30-minute session one night. And then, like I said, I stitched for it maybe 30 minutes on the plane, a little bit in the airport. I didn't time myself or quantify it at all, but I think I did get some good progress. I'm kind of just doing top to bottom. So I stitched some more of these little snowflakes. I started stitching Frosty. I stitched his hat and beaded it. And then I've been drawing down the blues. So I feel like I got some decent progress on this. Stitching the darker colors has been hard because the perforated paper is this navy blue. So it's really hard to do when the lighting is dim, and that was kind of plain stitching and all of that where there wasn't a ton of light. But I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out, and I'm loving doing the beading interchangeably, because when I stitch a piece that needs beading on fabric, I have to wait till the end because of the Q-snap, and then I just, you know, I add the beads while stitching in hand. So this has been fun to essentially stitch in hand and bead as I go. The last project I have in this first set of projects is Royal Holiday by Mirabilia. And I started this in 2021. I think I started it for my birthday in 2021. And this was the first Mirabilia I ever started stitching, and I have finished other Mirabilias, but I got stuck on this one because I made an error in the dress, and it was frustrating me, and so I put it away for a while, and now I really want to get some decent work on it. So it's kind of hurting me that this is just a 30-minute project instead of my focus project that I stitched the majority of my time on. And so I think after I finish that one, this is going to be a focus, because I would really like to finish her and hang her up at Christmas time. And here she is. And like I said, there was one project where I did not stick to the 30 minutes, and this is it. I stitched on her 2 nights, the last 2 nights actually. She was the last project on my wheel in the last round, and then the first project in my wheel in the next round. And so the first night I stitched on her for 2 hours, and then last night I stitched on her for 2.5 hours, because I really wanted to get her face in, and I did. And there's still a bunch of face that I have to put in over here, but I was able to backstitch her because she looks really weird when you've just got her stitched and she doesn't have any backstitching. And then I also put in all of this collar. That was my first night. Well, not all of it, but I finished it out. I think I started it the last time I showed her. And then I finished up all of this really heavy confetti and into down here, and all of these little berries and leaves and stuff. So she got a lot of really good progress, and I'm really happy with how she's looking. I'm stitching her 2/2 on a 32 count. The official name of the fabric is Tree Fern. However, I have not been able to repeat it since I dyed it for this project. It's kind of gone on the back burner, but we do have another color called Boughs of Holly that would also be really gorgeous with this project. It takes a whole half yard. She's a big project. So my focus piece for this Christmas in July series is Sleigh Ride by Praiseworthy Stitches. And I started this on December 1st of 2024 with Sarah and Zan from Crazy Bandleiding Stitches, although I don't think Zan actually ever started it. And the original plan was to split it up into 13 parts, and we were going to stitch 1 part in December of last year, and then the other 12 parts this year, so we could finish her by Christmas. And then I did okay through February, and then I fell off the wagon and stopped stitching on her. And so, oops, that's the wrong one. And so for Christmas in July, my goal has been to get caught up on the parts that I was supposed to get caught up on, and then continue to stitch her the way I had originally planned. And I'm not, because of my trip, I'm not going to actually get caught up through the July part, but I'm pretty excited about where it is. And I'm pretty excited to go back to like a strand a day or 30 minutes a day after Christmas in July is over. So I ironed her after I finished this part over here. And so she's still a little bit nice, but I don't know what the best way to get a side-by-side comparison is, because let's show you this part first. I think the last time I filmed, I had just finished the house. And so I finished the snowman and the tree and this whole part up here. And then there's another house right there. And so that was technically May's part. And then now I'm working on this part right here. And there's going to be another house over here. And so I did the dog and the tree and these people, and I did this line of snow. And I have a snowman right there, another girl right here, and I have a lamppost over here, and then a whole lot of snow. And this snow, last night I stitched for an hour, and all I did was this snow right here. It's a lot. It basically takes me 30 minutes to finish one strand of white because my strands are about 1 meter long. And I stitched for an hour, so I got about 2 strands in. But yeah, it's fun to stitch. It's just, this particular section has a lot. Let me show you on the pattern. So I am over here, and this house would be my July part, and I want to stitch this house so badly because it's got all these satin stitches. I don't know if you can tell. But so I have stitched, nope, I lied. I'm totally pointing out the wrong one. See, there are the satin stitches. I stitched the dog, this tree, this person, and this person, and I still have this tree, this snowman, and this person, and then all of that snow that goes around the house. And then the house is the July part that would officially have me caught up. And I think I said last time I filmed that this house was the reason why I wanted to stitch this, because of those satin stitches. So I really, really, really want to finish this part so I can get to that house, which is kind of, doesn't align with how I stitched the last couple of days, where I stitched so much on Royal Holiday, but it is what it is. So there's that. And then I was gonna say, on this side, going back over here, I messed up on the roof, and I ended up stitching one stitch too much on this side. So when I went to go place my my man and all of these things, they're one stitch too close. So when I stitched this tree and this girl, I had to move those back over. So there's some weird spacing in here that I'm trying to fix. I think it'll end up okay, but I also forgot to stitch. I forgot to do my back stitching. So this girl has some little earmuff handle, and then there's a light that goes around here, and there's a bow that comes off that wreath, and I forgot to stitch it before I move the Q-snap. So I'll have to go back later and add all that. Okay, so like I said, I don't really have any knitting news. I did finish my Comfort Fake Hardy. I do not have it to show you because I pretty much soaked it, dried it, and sent it off to a trunk show. So it's in Montana right now, hopefully, if it made it. And I will try to remember to actually bring it home and show it off once it comes back from that trunk show. I haven't started a new project yet, so I've got literally nothing to tell you, to show you, knitting wise. Books, I have been doing a lot of reading, especially with all the flights. I've been doing a combination of reading and listening. So I have a pretty good like mix of books that I've been reading too. The first book I read was called The Prison Healer. It's by Lynette Noni, and it's actually a series of 4 books. I think it's 4 books, and I could not put them down. They were so good, and at first I wasn't sure because it really, nope, I'm confusing that with the different book series I read. I was going to say it really read Throne of Glass, but that was something else. It is about this girl who was thrown into a work prison when she was little. She was like 13, and she was thrown in with her dad. They were accused of being rebels, or consorting with rebels. And so they were taken out of their home. The mom and the older siblings ran away to avoid being captured, and she was thrown into this work prison with her dad. And he was a healer, and so he became the prison healer, and she studied underneath him. And then so when the dad died, she took over as prison healer, and it kind of helped her to keep her safe from the other prisoners. It was a very, basically people didn't survive more than 3 to 6 months or so, depending on the job that they got. And so the fact that she lasted 10 years in this prison was a huge deal. And I don't want to go much further than that because number one, there were 4 books, and I don't want to spoil anything out of one of the later books into this first book. But number 2, if I go any further than that, I'm pretty much going to spoil everything. So just trust me, it was really good, and you should definitely read it if you like fantasy. There is a side plot of love interest, but it's definitely more fantasy than like a romantasy. And as far as I remember, it's pretty clean. So that was a really good series. Then after that, I read Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry, and I picked this one up because I thought it was a one-off, like a standalone, and I was like, okay, I don't have to get into another series. I don't have to read. I don't have to wait for another book to come out. And as I'm getting further and further into the book, I'm like, they're not going to wrap this up. This is not going to wrap up. And sure enough, it was just released like 2 months ago, and it's a trilogy, and there's not even a release date scheduled for the second book. So I'm pretty bummed because it was really good. So it starts off, it's another fantasy book. It's more romantasy than The Prison Healer was, but again, it's not the main focus of the plot. Which you're going to find odd once I start telling you what happened. But anyway, so the main character is a princess, and she is engaged to be wed to the head of her father, the king's army, military, whatever you want to call it. And her sister is meant to be married off to a neighboring nation as part of this pact that they all have called the Shield of Sparrows. And it's meant to keep peace between the nations. So basically every so many years they trade royalty and they marry each other so that all of the nations or territories are interconnected in some way, and it's supposed to keep the peace. And the king that is supposed to marry the sister says, I don't want her. I want this one. And so she goes off and marries this king, and they have a real rocky start to their relationship, and they end up going off, and there are monsters that are attacking, and it's just really good. I know I'm making it not sound good, but trust me, it's really good. I could not put it down. It's what I read on the flight to California, and I did not want to stop. After that, I read Variation by Rebecca Yarros. The same Rebecca Yarros that wrote Fourth Wing. Someone asked me once if I had read anything else that she had written before she wrote Fourth Wing, and I had. She did a one of those partnerships with another author where one of them wrote one book and the other one wrote the sequel, and I did read that. It was like Love Letters or Letters to the something like that, and I enjoyed it, but I just never read anything else that she had written. And so I picked this one up kind of in a bid to clear my Kindle Unlimited, because I have 15 books borrowed on Kindle Unlimited, and every time I hear about something new and I want to borrow it, it's full. So I have to read something so I can make space to return something and borrow something new. And so I decided that I was just going to go from oldest to newest and make it through my Kindle Unlimited and clear it out. And it's not going so well because I keep hearing of new books, and I'm trying to just make a list instead of adding them to my Kindle Unlimited. But sometimes I get carried away and I just go ahead and add them. So anyway, that's why I picked up this book finally. I'd had it in my library for a couple of months. And it is about a ballet dancer who summers in this small town by a lake, and her neighbor is a local boy, a local family, and they fall in love when they're teenagers, and she gets into a car accident where her sister dies, and he basically abandons her to, I want to say go into the military, but I could be wrong on that. And so basically it's a second chance romance. And it's 10 years later or whatever, and she's still a ballerina, and she gets injured and she needs to rehab. And so she goes back to the summer home to rehab so she can go on with her ballet career. And it was really good. There is some romance in it, but again, I wouldn't necessarily say that's the main plot. Like, it's really about this ballerina finding herself and what she wants out of life, because this whole life of ballet has been thrust upon her by her mom, who is a ballet dancer. So yeah, it was really good. I was pleasantly surprised. Then I also read Unlikely Story by Ali Rosen, and this was a cute little, I would probably call it chicklet, like just a little story. It was about a writer. No, she was a therapist and had a side column giving advice, relationship advice. and she has this editor that she's only ever talked to via their edits in like basically like a Google Docs kind of format. And she has fallen in love with him, and he's in England. They have never met, and suddenly she needs to go to England to attend an event. And so she's like, hey, we should meet up, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, there is a guy who moves in downstairs from England that she doesn't like. And I don't know why. I don't think I was supposed to know the whole time. And I'm going to spoil it for you right here, but they were the same guy. Somehow I just knew, like it just wasn't even in my head that it was supposed to be a secret that these were the same guy. But I had it figured out. So I probably didn't enjoy the book as much as I should have. It was still really good though. Yeah. So it's kind of their developing relationship on both ends, like this relationship with this editor and the relationship with her neighbor and how they kind of intertwine and all this other stuff. It was a really good read. And then the two books that I'm currently reading, one I'm listening to and one I'm reading, on the Kindle Unlimited plight, I am reading Fairytale by Veronica Lancet. And I don't really know what I think about it yet. It is very strange. It's a dark fantasy, historical fiction, paranormal, I think is how Goodreads has it classified. And it is all of those things and very strange. It's about a woman. It takes place in the 1950s, and it's about a woman who was left in an orphanage raised by nuns, and her biological father dies and writes her into his will. So she has to travel to Fairytale for the reading of the will, and his family only just found out about her and wants to get to know her. And strange things happen in this town, and strange things start happening to her of the paranormal, fantastical variety. There's a weird love triangle with a guy from the 1800s in her dreams and a local in Fairytale, but it's not really a love triangle because one only happens in her dreams. So I don't know. I don't know what I think about it yet. It's really long. It's over 700 pages and I'm maybe 15% in. So the jury's still out. I've been reading other things because I can't read much of it for too long before it starts to weird me out. So then the other book is I finally got back into listening to Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in the Throne of Glass series. And it took me a few tries to get back into it. I've had to rewind quite a few times where I found myself not paying attention, but I am back in it and loving it. And there's one more book I didn't write down that I listened to before my trip, and it is, I can't remember, the London Ember Sky or something like that. I'll put it down here. It's by Sarah Sundin, who has become one of my favorite historical fiction authors. She writes mostly World War II fiction, and I've read listened to a number of her other World War II books and really, really love them. And so this one takes place in London, and it is about I think she's Dutch woman who is married to a wealthy man, and she is trying to leave him because he is very cruel. They have a 4-year-old son who has a deformity on his hand, and her husband is not accepting of it, and so she's trying to leave. Meanwhile, they get bombed by the Germans, and so he leaves with them, foiling her escape, and he gives their son away to an English couple and says, take him, keep him safe. And she's devastated. He refused to tell her their name and address so she could find him when they get to London. And then he dies in the attack. So she spends months looking for her son. And it's just, as a parent, it just rips your heart out. And yeah, it was very good though. Like I said, I love her books. They are very focused on prayer and things like that. And so I can really appreciate that side of things. That is all the book talk. It's like I said, I read a pretty good variety, some historical fiction, some fantasy, some romantasy, some regular romance, some chick lit, like just all of the above. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed the variety, I think, the most. Shop update wise, last Friday's release was, we called it Cosmic Comedy. It is inspired by Spaceballs because I don't know if you know, but Spaceballs is getting a sequel after like 40 years, and I'm so excited that I had to do a little yarn collection. I'll pop a picture of the yarn collection up there. It's just 4 little colorways that are very fall inspired because that's the kind of mood I'm in. And yeah, we're dyeing those to order as always, and so I should be dyeing them, if not this week, early next week. And then this upcoming Friday I'm releasing a collection called the Bramble Collection that I've been working on for months, and it spent a good bit of time, the yarn did, in timeout because it's not coming out the way I see it in my head. And so I'm buckling down and finishing up the last few colorways and getting it dyed up on all the samples. And it's going to be what I bring to my fall show circuit this year. So Dallas, SAF, which is in the Asheville area, North Carolina. And then I'm also doing a new show this year in Alabama, the Alabama Fiber Fest in Birmingham. And that's going to be coming with me. And then last, this Friday, the Great Tennessee Yarn Tour starts. I'm wearing my shirt, Pack a Your Bag. And basically it's like over a dozen yarn shops all over the state of Tennessee are participating. And we signed up this year. So we are going to have some extra open hours for the month of August. We're going to be open Fridays until 8 o'clock at night. And we'll be open every Saturday from 10 to 4. And this Friday is our kickoff party from 5 to 8. And then Saturday is our regular monthly stitch-in from 1 to 4, but we will be open from 10 to 4 for the day. So yeah, that is everything that is going on with me and my stitching and my knitting and my shop and all of the above. I think I might be a little tired, and my daughter is staring at me from the office window. So I think that means I need to wrap it up because now she's looking at me because she knows I'm talking about her. I hope you have a great week. Goodbye.